Hi, everybody. There's a lot going on. Um, so let me just get into it. Today's show is called Tyranny Targets Starmer. Starmer is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He was elected back in 2024 by a landslide. He's a member of the Labour Party. And the tyrants are targeting him. And when I say tyrants, I'm talking about the Russians, their dupes, and the plutocrats who work together to bring tyranny, to bring control in society. And what they want to do is they want to use things like fear and anger and hatred and ethnicity and religion to divide people and to develop a core constituency that they can use as a battering ram against institutions, against opponents, and seize control of the society and basically strip away all of the safeguards that are there to protect the person and the person's rights and to allow the tyrants to amass wealth and power. That's what's going on a global scale. Okay, those are the real globalists. These transnational interests, like the tech bros and the crypto guys and Musk and David Sachs and a bunch of other people like that. They are all working together along with the Russians to make this happen on a country by country basis. And they want to break up the EU and they want to break up or reform the UN and any multilateral cooperation. They want to do away with that. And they want to just have little tribes huddled in the darkness, fighting each other, and all being told, well, this is for your better. This is for your good. But they're just being controlled and ruled, and the idea of the person will disappear in this groupthink of the ethnicity or of the religion. So, what's going on in England? It really picked up. England, UK, in the last year, and the tyrants are targeting Starmer because they want to keep Great Britain out of the EU, and he's talking about putting Great Britain back in the EU. And if you talk to a number of sources, what is it? When Brexit happened at the end of January of 2020, talked to a number of different people. And if you look at the polls, it is 74 to 26. People want to go back in the EU, in the UK, because they are poorer as a result of leaving the EU. And Brexit came about in June of 2016 through the combined efforts of guys like Steve Bannon, the Mercers, Rebecca and Robert Mercer, Russians, and also using a lot of high tech. And they all came together and they brought about Brexit, which has hurt the British people. The British know that now, and they want to go back in. At the same time, the tyrants are targeting Starmer. They want him out of office because they don't want UK going in to the EU, but at the same time, they want to destabilize the UK. They want disorder in the UK. They want to attack its institutions. They want to do away with this wonderful, set of rights and duties and privileges you got as a UK citizen. They want to do away with that, and you can see that in the rhetoric of the opponents of Starmer, and you can see it in the Russian rhetoric. I mean, one good thing of social media is you can watch the Russians attack Starmer too. So you know that they're behind the attack on Starmer, and one of them is Kirill Dmitriev. He is one who is very vocal against Starmer, and that tells you right there where the Russian government is. They want him out. They want the institutions in the UK broken, and they want a lot of turmoil, and they want the UK kept out of the EU, and they want a poorer, because they want to break up the transatlantic alliance, the transatlantic power that really kept the world at peace, along with NATO, which kept the world at peace because it was a check on the territorial ambitions of Russia, which is an empire and has always been an empire. So this is part of the Russian plan, and the tyrants are nesting with that. They're working with that because they don't want powerful multilateral transnational institutions that they don't control. So they want to knock those out. So that's what's going on here. And so there is an attack on Starmer. Now this attack comes after local elections, which happened May 7th and May 8th. The results were not good for Labor, and but reform did increase, as did Green and the Liberal Democrats and some other little parties. So there are about 4,900 seats that are up for election. These are the councillors, as they call them. And there are about a total of 18,000 councillors throughout England, but only about 4,900 were up for election. So and there are about 369 councils, what they call councils in the UK, and only about, I think, 75, 72 or 75 are up for election too. So the New York Times reports that as a result of these local elections, is what they're called, Reform gained around 1,452 seats. That's a lot of seats because they only had two. So that's a big gain. Labor lost 1,400. They were projected to lose 1,800, but they only lost 1,400. And they kept over 1,000 seats. The Liberal Democrats increased to 844, Conservatives 801, Greens 587, and Independents ended up at 213. They all had net increases, as I understand it. So despite this tranche of the local elections, this tranche of the councillors and the councils, still Labor keeps control of the local governments, of the councillors. They've got over 4,600 seats. Conservatives have over 3,800. Liberal Democrats have over 3,300. Reform's around 2,300 now, and then about 5,000 to all the rest. So that's out of the 18,000. So the Reform, went up to what? Maybe about 10, 12%. Not even that, or yeah, about 12%, and Labor remains around 25 to 26%. Now the councils were up for election. Reform gained about 23. They ended up at 35 total, and so that's out of 369. That's less than 10%. Labor has 116 of the councils. And then the Conservatives are around 60, and Reform I'm sorry, and the Conservatives have about 60. So what you have too in the House of Commons, the majority is Labor. It's 400, remains Labor, 404. The election in 2024 was a landslide for Labor. What happened is there's supposed to be another election in 2029 unless they call one election. So what you're having is having defections that are occurring in the Labor Party, and you're getting the big media to push for an election now. They're trying to say people lost confidence in Starmer. The big media, the BBC, the London Standard, which is run by Yevgeny Lebedev, who's a Russian, who's got Russian lineage, which means his loyalty is to Russia. And he also has a part of the Independent. Yeah, to go back to the councils, there were 72 up for election out of about 369 councils. Reform only has about 35, and Labor continues to have 116. So they've got the majority of the councils, and the Conservatives have about 60, like I said. So basically, the gains in the councils by Reform are very small, and they still remain small when it comes to the councillors. But still, Starmer is under attack. Even though he's got the majority in the House of Commons and the largest number in the House of Lords, he is still, or one of the largest, actually he's 215, and the Conservatives are at 232. So basically what you've got is Labor still is in a very controlling position. But despite that, you're getting calls from the BBC, from a lot of plutocrats, calling for his removal, saying he's a globalist. Some MPs and members of parliament are signing on saying we need to have an election, he needs to resign. Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation weighed in. He said, this is a wave of populist nationalism. And he cheered it. Okay, well, populist nationalism is a tool, of course, as we've talked about before, to bring tyranny, to destroy the institutions and return us to a tribal think. Musk has long supported racism, and Reform plays to racism. There was just a story that one of the Sheffield councillors was just suspended for posting Nazi information. His name was Nathaniel Mende. And May 16th is a big march, day after tomorrow, big march against Starmer, against Labor, really against the UK, by Reform. It's going to be a bunch of racist people getting out in the streets, just like in this country. years ago and Unite the Right. They're all coming out and they're being pushed, they're being advocated for by Musk and other of these transnational economic elites that want tyranny and that are working with Russia. And so Starmer has said, we're not going to let in any foreign agitators. Oh, that got everybody upset too. But Starmer is staying put. He's not going to quit. He's going to stay in. And today's Thursday. Someone was supposed to announce today if they're going to run against him. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But Starmer has been very successful. Let me go over that success. Immigration has actually down 78%, according to the Migration Observatory. Pornography is banned for people under 18 years of age. Defense has increased. I don't know the amount. The UK has the fastest growing economy in the EU and in the G7. It was at 0.6% in the first quarter of 2026, according to the BBC. There is now free childcare. You get 30 hours per week for up to 38 weeks, according to gov.uk. Wages are up. And there's new clean energy that's being implemented. The Economist came in and said immigration is down, housing prices are down, energy prices are down, health is improving, crime is down, transport costs are up a little bit, but income is staying pretty steady. What's really amazing to me is as I look at the media, social media, it's stunning how much support, grassroots support, Starmer has. And the people talking against Starmer are like the plutocrats, and the Russians. These are the guys who want to get him out. And then once again, most people want to join the EU. He really needs to move towards EU integration. So if Starmer goes, ultimately, what's the plan for the tyrants, plutocrats? Well, it's Nigel Farage. Okay. It's Nigel Farage. The Russians want him. The tyrants want him. And in Nigel Farage, as I've said before, you have the joining together of these two interests, of the tyrants with the Russians. They like this guy. They've supported him. They've funded him. And I'm going to go over some of that. In the past, he's called for the cutoff of aid to Ukraine. Russia wants that. He emphasizes populist nationalism, which is racism, and division. Farage, as I said before, had ties to Nathan Gill. Nathan Gill was convicted of taking Russian bribes, and he has been sentenced, I believe, to 10 years in prison. Farage, recently, the scandal broke, and he's being investigated by Parliament. Farage nearly took £5 million from a Brit-Thai crypto billionaire called Christopher Harborne. Now, he's an interesting character. I'm going to talk to you about Christopher. He's got a Thai name. I don't know it. I don't have it written down here. Christopher Harborne has aided the... he's been a big aid of the Reform Party because he has been aiding Brexit. He wants to keep the UK out of the EU. And he's pumped in over 22 million pounds, British pounds, over the course of 6 or 7 years. He gave £1 million to Boris Johnson in 2022. Reform's money, 2/3 of Reform's money, has come from Christopher Harborne. So he gave $5 million to Farage before Farage decided to run. And there's different stories now. Apparently today Farage says that £5 million was a thank you for all that Farage did, in keeping the UK out of the EU. And then after Farage got the money, he ran for office. So there's an investigation of Farage that's going on right now. There was also a question of Farage receiving money, £5 million, for his security detail in lieu of getting the government security detail. And the question became, why doesn't he want government security agents around him? And the chatter is, well, because he doesn't want them overhearing how he's betraying the UK. That's the chatter that I've read and that I've seen. But anyways, so who is Christopher Harborne? Well, he's a crypto king. He is, according to Oliver Wright, who wrote an article In the Times, a businessman with Panama Papers links gives £3 million to Brexit's party from November 2019. Christopher has ties to the Panama Papers. Now, the Panama Papers, as you may recall, broke, I think, about 14 years ago, 2012. And a guy who wrote a very good account of it's called Jake Bernstein. Jake Bernstein wrote a book called Secrecy World. And if you get Secrecy World and read it, as I have, a large chunk of that, of the Panama Papers, which were papers, confidential papers kept by a law firm, Mossack Fonseca, which were hacked by or obtained one way or another by international consortium of journalists, that showed all these fake corporations being set up to launder the money, to protect the money of the rich and famous of Europe. And one of the rich and famous whose money was being protected and laundered was Vladimir Putin. Okay, that's a huge part of Bernstein's book. So right away you have Christopher Harborne tied in with this network of dark money and tied in, possibly, perhaps even likely, with Putin and the Russians through the Panama Papers. He sued the Wall Street Journal for fraud, for defamation rather, because the Wall Street Journal claimed that he was engaged in fraud, money laundering, and terror financing in a March 2023 articles in which the Wall Street Journal said that he helped Tether and Bitfinance get access to U.S. banking by making certain misrepresentations. That's according to the Wall Street Journal article from March of 2023. So we know that Farage is somebody who the Russians like, and we know he's being helped by a billionaire, Christopher Harborne. Okay, so this is important. And this fits into an analysis that was done back in October 2019 by the late Dr. Peter J.S. Duncan, who is with the University College of London. He was an expert, or he taught at the School of Slavonic and East European Studies. He wrote a paper in which he says since the early 2000s, the Kremlin has sought to create new networks to promote its interests and to penetrate political parties. These activities increased substantially after the Ukraine crisis when Western states introduced sanctions. Russian and Ukrainian money is being laundered through London, and the authorities have been ineffective in stopping this. This was at the end of 2019. So he went on with a little bit of detail, which I want to read to you because I can't do the whole report. But he said that that the USSR and the Russian Federation have always sought to create constituencies in other countries to lobby for their political, strategic, and economic interests, and to promote a positive image of Russia. And this activity died down in the 1990s, but in the mid 2000s, about 20 years ago, these activities were reborn with the growing assertiveness of Russia under Putin, powered by higher oil and gas prices and motivated by increased tensions with Western countries, especially the USA and the UK. He goes on to say a number of intelligence agents are active in Western countries have increased significantly. These are mainly from the SVR, which is the Foreign Intelligence Service, and the GU, formerly the GRU, the Intelligence Service of the Ministry of Defense. He writes, additionally, in Britain, there is some activity by the FSB, Federal Security Service, or Federal Security Bureau, primarily among Russian emigres. The FSB and the SVR are the main successor organization of the KGB. And he went on to say, Russian intelligence services and their agents have since the 1990s become entangled irretrievably with organized crime. The doctor goes on and says, paragraph 6, Russian intelligence services are mainly concerned with economic and military intelligence, but more recently they sought to promote interference in British politics. Working through Sergei Nalobin, a first secretary in the political section of the Russian embassy in London, they sought to penetrate the Conservative and Labour parties using a PR firm. They established the Conservative Friends of Russia. The aim was to attract not only politicians, but also companies and business people with interests in dealing with Russia and wealthy Russians, banks and financial services, property companies, estate agents, and perhaps even public schools. It was initially successful at achieving high-level support within the party. But then they overreached themselves and they launched a campaign against Chris Bryant, the chair of the All Party Parliamentary Group on Russia. Bryant was famous for his defense of human rights in Russia, including LGBT rights. The SVR clearly wanted someone more sympathetic to the Kremlin. The publication by the conservative Friends of Russia of an old picture from the internet of Mr. Bryant led to a scandal and the resignation of Sir Malcolm Rifkin and other leading conservatives. And Malcolm Rifkin was the Russian guy. So they attacked the Labor Party and the conservatives, and they failed. So what did the Russians do? They looked for somebody else. And who was that somebody else? It was Nigel Farage. So the Dr. Sanders goes on to say, long before the Brexit referendum, Moscow had given succor to the then principal advocate of Britain leaving the EU, Nigel Farage. Then the leader of the UKIP, I don't know what the IP stands for, I think it's the Independent Party. Nigel Farage appeared regularly on Russian propaganda TV channel RT, or Russia Today. UKIP's agitation played a major role in the referendum being called in the first place. The departure of Britain from the EU would not only weaken the EU, but also remove from it one of the principal backers of sanctions against Russia. And you have to remember at that time there were sanctions against Russia because Russia invaded Crimea. Prior to the referendum, Russian ambassador Alexander Yakovenko offered Aaron Banks cheap access to shares in a Russian mining company and a prominent role in the Leave EU campaign. So that was another individual. Then the doctor goes on to say in the United States, the Mueller report did not prove collusion. However, much evidence was found of Russian interference to swing the election in favor of Trump. Actions by Moscow aimed at weakening the EU by strengthening the far right are well known, and more have probably still come to light. Russia lent Marie Le Pen's Front National 9 million euros via the Prague-based First Czech Russian bank. The bank is now bankrupt. In Germany, Russia helped Alternative for Deutschland by circulating a false story of a girl having been raped by Muslim refugees. German Committee on Eastern European Economic Relations has acted as a lobby inside the country for a long time. And in Italy, an allegation has been made of support from Russia for Matteo Salvini's Liga. And I see that Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation just met with Matteo Salvini, another great defender of the West, according to Kevin Roberts. Okay, when they say defender of the West, that's Russia. That's code for the Russian disinformation campaign that the West is collapsing. We have to change and we have to preserve civilization, which means you go back to your ghettos. It means you go back to your little ethnic and religious ghettos and you fight with each other. And most importantly, you throw out human rights and you submerge the individual in the group. Because when the individual is submerged and the person is destroyed, then the tyrants can rule unchecked. That's all I got for today. Thanks.